Welcome to Across Africa, our weekly roundup of stories from across the continent. I'm Georgia Calvin-Smith, and coming up, half a decade after over 270 schoolgirls were kidnapped by Boko Haram, the town of Chibok is still haunted by the violence and heartache of the abduction, the memories of the 100 children yet to return. Also, South Sudan continues to tread a rocky path to peace. Last September's accord between the two sides behind 5 years of brutal fighting seemed to be holding just about. The future's unclear, but refugees are still eager to return home. And already at the forefront of the movement for change, young people in Algeria fight to keep shaping the country in the wake of the ousting of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. But first, April 14th marked 5 years since at least 276 schoolgirls were abducted from a college in northeastern Nigeria. The kidnappings triggered international outrage and brought global attention to the violence of the country's Boko Haram insurgency. Half a decade on, the town of Chibok is still waiting for the return of more than 100 of its children. Thomas Waterhouse has more.
5 long and painful years have ticked by since their daughters were snatched by Boko Haram. But for these Chibok parents, the search for their loved ones simply has to continue in earnest.
We aren't losing hope, but we're appealing to the government to do more to bring back our girls and reunite our family.
We've been suffering ever since our daughter was kidnapped. Her abduction has really caused us so much pain. It's as if we were all abducted together.
On the 14th of April 2014, Islamist gunmen abducted 276 girls from their classrooms in this boarding school in Nigeria's restive northeast. 57 managed to escape by jumping from their captors' trucks. This footage of the remaining girls was then released by Boko Haram. It shocked the world and led to the birth of the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls, which had been tweeted over 3 million times by mid-May that same year. Defeating Boko Haram and securing the girls' safe release also became a key pillar of Muhammadu Buhari's presidency. To date, 107 pupils have been freed or found and safely returned to their families. But it's still not clear where the last 112 are.
Though the two sides of South Sudan's civil war have struggled to stick to the terms of the latest peace deal, last September's negotiations have led to the longest lull in fighting since 2015. Rebel leader Riek Machar said that it may well be another 6 months before he could form a government with President Salva Kiir's administration. But the exhausted refugees who were forced from their homes are already gambling on returning to their war-ravaged homeland.
Back home after 5 years in exile in neighbouring Sudan, Joel Deng, her husband and their 5 children fled South Sudan's second city of Malakal to escape the atrocities ravaging the country in 2014.
People died, lots of them. People could literally walk on dead bodies across Malakal.
Her family has sought refuge in Udia in the northeast of the country, a quiet village on the border with Sudan and Ethiopia. Refugees from across the country are staying here, waiting to see if the peace deal holds before returning to their homes.
We were being killed in Juba. We were shot at by people we didn't know at around 3 a.m. They burned down houses, killed our kids.
It's the first time since 2015 that a peace deal has lasted in South Sudan. The power-sharing deal will be the 3rd attempt to reconcile Salva Kiir and his opponent, Riek Machar. Their rivalry kicked off a civil war in 2013 that left around 400,000 dead and nearly 4 million displaced. In this camp in Juba, residents say they are waiting for the formation of the unity government that's meant to be taking place next month.
When the peace comes, everyone wants to go back home, where there shall be no killing or beating. Then we can return home and stay in peace. That's all.
Everyone's waiting to see if Riek Machar returns to Juba as planned in May. A prior peace deal collapsed just months after his return in 2016, sparking even worse violence.
We should be further along, and we're getting a little concerned that the momentum is starting to slow. And momentum slows, frustration sets in, might lead to anger, and then who knows after that.
But aside for some small gestures, such as the freeing of opposition prisoners, progress so far has largely stalled.
Young people have been at the centre of the political upheaval in Algeria that led to the ousting of long-term leader Abdelaziz Bouteflika earlier this month. Several organisations have been brainstorming ways to guarantee that youth voices play key roles going forward.
A joint initiative with the backing of some 20 Algerian organisations, literally called Young People Take Action. The point and common goal linking all these groups is the desire to improve youth participation in Algeria's political life.
For many years, young people have been excluded from public and political life. Today, I think there is an opportunity for young people, but also for youth organizations to organize themselves and to be able to open a dialogue with political decision makers, a dialogue on culture, on the environment.
The challenge is to establish mechanisms that allow for communication channels between young people and those in power, an initiative that intends to be for the benefit of the many, not the few.
We must extend participation to all types of young people. It must not be restricted to a certain part of the population. It should be open to those who live in cities or the country, the disabled, and regardless of gender. Young women and young men must participate in the Algeria of tomorrow, in the Algeria we wish to build.
These associations come from all over the country.
My association INSAF, for example, wants to be a part of this initiative to come up with projects that will allow young people to have a real role to play in the Republic of Algeria of tomorrow.
For these activists, the time for change has arrived, and the Algerian people are preparing to lay the foundations for a new Algeria. One where the young are seen as an investment in the future and a driving force for positive and long-lasting change.
France is building a new military base in Mali for its Operation Barkhane forces. The strategic site is going up in Gossi, in the centre of the country, to give the anti-terror mission another foothold in the region as it tackles armed groups that operate locally.
A military base under construction around 100 kilometres from Gao in eastern Mali, where thousands of soldiers will join Operation Barkhane before being deployed in the Malian Gourma, close to the border with Burkina Faso. A Malian company is drilling for water, a top priority for this military base, although today no one is taking a shower because the water tanks are empty.
Well, here we are. This is an area with field showers, field toilets and a few sinks. The base will grow as it is developed, but it's still more than enough for good, hardy soldiers who like to be on the ground.
Everything is under tight surveillance. For the past 18 months, Operation Barkhane has been active in an area close to the border between Mali and Niger, mostly against the Islamic State in the Greater Sahel group. The Gourma region is considered a sanctuary for several armed groups.
These border areas are obviously the places most sought after by terrorists to carry out their actions. There's no better way to move from one to the other and find refuge than in a border area. So in terms of being effective, the Gourma for us ticked all the right boxes.
Located on the RN16 road, which stretches from Bamako to Gao, Gossi is an economic hub that hosts a large weekly livestock market. Operation Barkhane's teams have been patrolling the shopping street since mid-January.
Our objective here is to enable the population to go about their daily lives while pursuing our fight against terrorism. Since Gossi is the region's economic hub, armed terrorist groups, like everyone else, need to supply themselves. And so they try to take advantage of everything Gossi has to offer to get those supplies. It is our priority here to prevent them.
The military's presence has led to the reconstruction of the local water wells. It's been a useful way in winning the confidence of the local population, a mission that will take time, as the balance of power in this part of Mali remains complex.
After years of tension with Mauritanian coast guards, a deal struck last year between Nouakchott and Dakar gave Senegalese fishermen the green light to once again cast their nets in their northern neighbours' teeming waters. The agreement came as a relief after the granting of licences to Senegalese fishermen was suspended in 2017.
After years of uncertainty and tension, these Senegalese fishermen are free to roam once more. A scarcity of fish in their own territories forced them into fishing in the waters of their neighbour to the north, Mauritania. But now they can do so without fear of retribution.
Before, we were fishing illegally in Mauritanian waters. We were uneasy. We would run off whenever we saw the Coast Guard's flashlight. Thank God there's now a deal in place.
The situation was souring relations between the two countries. Senegalese fishermen often refused to be officially registered and were reluctant to land their catches in Mauritanian ports. Last year, one fisherman was even killed by Mauritanian coast guards. But now, 400 Senegalese fishing boats are licensed to operate offshore, subject to taxes and a quota of the catch that must be reserved for the local market.
The quantities will increase, everyone will benefit. The small traders who could only have 50 kilos of fish per day will have 100. The companies that were processing it will go from 1 to 2 or 3 tons. The state will benefit from it. Instead of 5 containers, companies will pay tax to export 10 containers. The benefits are wide-ranging.
The return of the Senegalese is expected to lead to lower prices in the local markets, as well as reviving the fishing industry in general, a sector that has not always been highly valued by Mauritanians.
There are 52 companies here in Nouakchott that weren't operating before. They were working at 10%, 20% of capacity. Now they will work at 80%, and they will increase employment.
For now, all parties seem to be happy with the deal, with many staking their livelihoods on it being in place for a long time to come.
Well, that's it for Across Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.